Ladies and gentlemen, it's the Big Jiu-Jitsu Show. Don't forget to check out our sponsors, Trevor Roll Soap Company and Rolls Gear, and you can find all of our old episodes at bjjshow.com. I'm Rob, and this episode I had Mike Gill, a strength and conditioning coach, even coached a couple of former UFC fighters from back in the day, and we talked about grappling, how to use strength and conditioning to your advantage, and self-defense aspects of all martial arts, and kind of, I guess, the mentality that you should have during confrontation, or just general ways to keep yourself safe. And if you want to support the show, don't forget to go to bjjshow.com, and you can buy a shirt, buy a patch, get some stickers, and just listen to some of the old episodes. And I really hope that you all enjoyed this episode. So, ladies and gentlemen, it is the Big Jiu-Jitsu Show. I'm Rob, and I'm joined today by Mr. Mike Gill. Now, Mike Gill is a strength and conditioning coach for everybody, BJJ athletes, mixed martial artists, stuff like that. So, Mike, I appreciate you coming on the show today. I know it's kind of late on a Thursday, but dude, it's the perfect time to talk about what we want to talk about.
Yeah, man. I actually just got done doing self-defense one-on-one with a kid at 6 o'clock. Came home, slammed a little food, and perfect night to have a discussion.
Excellent. So, I know I already said, you're a strength and conditioning specialist, did some BJJ yourself. Could you kind of give our listeners a background on how you got started in martial arts and how you got to where you are right now?
So like the first martial art I ever did was, kids either do Taekwondo or you wrestle. So I was a wrestler. I started that in junior high and I fell in love with it and I still wrestle. I love folk style wrestling. I love catch wrestling. And, I became a UFC fan, literally from day one, and I'll explain that a little bit more later. But I saw the power of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu from day one, of like putting my eyes on it and going like, why don't I know anything more about this? So I've done Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu on and off now for about 25 or so years. I owned a mixed martial arts gym. And I've got a strength and conditioning center that's going to be opening up in the future where we've got some mat space so we can still do that type of work. So I can't get my hands off of grappling. I absolutely love it.
There's nothing wrong with that. And, UFC 1 did show to us how important Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is, as well as grappling. Because, even though Royce Gracie was the one who won it all, I know in the early UFCs, Ken Shamrock was probably one of the only people to really give him a run for his money, and he was a catch wrestler, wasn't he?
Yeah, he had a catch wrestling background and a regular wrestling background. He was in a boys' home, and the dad, made everybody kind of do a sport like that, and he took to wrestling and I think a bunch of street fighting and that type of stuff. So he was the first one to show like, okay, we're going to kind of match skills in maybe a slightly different direction.
In Mike here.
But I think prior to that point, it was all about stand-up and the karate for UFC 1 and UFC 4. And he was a massive guy. He's from Buffalo, New York, where I'm from. And he had this long blonde hair, and he was a black belt in karate, and he did boxing. And he's like, yeah, I think I got a good shot at this, because the dude was massive, probably like 6'5", 325 pounds. And there's no way.
We lost you there for a second. You're talking about Kevin Rozier, right? No, you're good. I just wanted to. Okay.
Yeah. So I was just saying he was a massive guy, and I trained him strength and conditioning wise for the first UFC. And he had this long blonde hair. And there's no internet, right? So he comes back a week later with his head shaved, and his face is all black and blue. I'm like, what happened? And he goes, well, I had to shave my head because they could use your hair as a handle. He was just these very rule restrictive fights, and UFC came in, and UFC 1, no rules. Literally, that was what, no eye gouging, fish hooking, ear biting. That was about it, right?
Yeah.
So he came back and realized, and he told me about Gracie. So I went and got the VHS like, as soon as it was available, right? Like put that in and watched like 25 times that first night. I was amazed. It's completely amazing what that skill set brings to the game. And I don't think people still understand the power of jiu-jitsu.
Well, it was a lot of people even back then, because it was a lot of I can do this move and I will pull your jaw from your face type, like if but only if I want it, or like, I can
Yeah.
only do this move because it's not a life or death
It's too deadly.
situation. It's too deadly. I can't.
Too deadly, right?
If I do this chi move, I'll kill you on accident. Like that.
Mhm.
But that was the first time where people were like, okay, maybe the ninjas aren't exactly as deadly as Bloodsport made them out to be.
Yeah.
Like,
You know what? I mean, it's a very gentle art where you inflict incredible amounts of damage, especially if you're on an untrained opponent, right? So you can really regulate how badly you hurt your opponent. Well, you can't do that in a fight, right? Because if you get in an actual hand-to-hand fight, you start throwing punches or kicks, you can kick somebody sideways and their head bounces off the concrete, and you got a major problem you didn't intend to. With jiu-jitsu, you maybe break an arm or tear a knee or knock somebody out, but the chance of you can kill them, but you're not going to.
yeah, exactly. I mean, everybody talks about simulated murder and stuff like that with jiu-jitsu. Like, oh, I'm just going to go practice simulated murder with my friends. But I think I laughed thinking about that. I was like, sometimes I'd rather them just kill me, depending upon like what the damage they're going to do to me with a submission is.
Yeah.
Like, because I wrestled in high school, was not good at it, like not good at all, and I had my arm broken pretty bad when I wrestled, and I'd just rather somebody just beat me out, like beat me to death, beat me out. Like, that means just beat me to death, so I didn't have to deal with it, because it was painful, it hurt, it was so bad, I couldn't even, like, walking hurt because of the jarring on the arm. Like, I would rather just be choked out and stuff. And I think Hickson also said, when he was talking about trying just to do jiu-jitsu on people like a pride fighting competition, was that it's a bit of karma, and he wanted to make sure that the universe wasn't going to come back and have somebody just beat him up, like punch him in the face and stuff like that, where he chose just to use jiu-jitsu, make them submit or choke them out.
Yeah. I mean, it is a really cool way and safer way to defeat somebody. But again, I know what you're saying. I mean, we've all been caught in an arm bar, boom, where it went on so quick, and you maybe were rolling with somebody a little less skilled who almost tears your arm apart, because they're just overzealous in there and you're just flow rolling, So it is amazing. Like, boom, that fast, you can get caught in something. I don't care how good you are, a white belt can still catch a black belt on a weird day, just like a lucky punch can land. Now it's rare, but you can seriously take some damage. And that's why you always got to be heads up. I told that to my student tonight. I said, man, he told me there was a fight at the junior high and somebody got kicked in the head, and I said, and this is why I tell you to take this seriously when I'm working with you. We use some jujitsu techniques, and I use those to show him, look, you might need to create some space or hurt somebody in a way you can get away, without even having to throw a punch. So it is, so few people still know the secrets, of BJJ, that it's a wonderful tool to have in your back.
It's still weird that I don't think a lot of people are. I mean, it's very well known. Like, most militaries, at least U.S. militaries, are using some form of jiu-jitsu for their hand-to-hand. Police departments starting to pick up using jiu-jitsu more and more. I mean, just the general public, and overall, we've come a long way from tell those two dudes to stop kissing on the ground and stand up to,
Right.
oh my god, did you see him like roll into that omoplata and submit the dude? Like, a lot of it's becoming more widely known, I guess is the best way to put it. But yet some people still, if they want to learn self-defense, and I mean, there's multiple avenues to go do that, completely dismiss any sort of grappling. And it's surprising.
Foolish, right? I mean, that's completely foolish, because tonight I worked on him with a little defense in the guard, just some very light stuff. And he put his hand down, right? And he's in my guard. And I immediately put him in a Kimura. Like, 1 second, and I'm like, look, you got to break yourself of these bad habits, because if you get in a real fight against somebody who knows what they're doing and you put that hand down, the fight is over. Like, you're not even going to realize it. Untrained person is going to want to rest and put their hand down because they thought that fight was up, and all of a sudden it's down, and their hand's there, and their shoulder and their elbow are broke in seconds, right? So they want to learn. I teach my self-defense students, punching and kicking are moves you want to use to get away, right? You want to hit and move. You want to get out of there. I don't teach boxing, right? I'm not a boxer. I'm not real graceful on my feet, but I was a bouncer for a substantial number of years. And, the most amount of times I would throw actually strikes were mostly with my legs, right? Because I don't want to be close enough to have to punch somebody. So a lot of the stuff you're going to learn in a traditional self-defense setting is going to be useless or going to get you hurt.
No, that's absolutely right. And what's funny is I was actually even watching a video. One of my favorite YouTubers was holding up this random, like, how do you defeat 7 people in one fight type thing, and just like self-defense. He's like, oh yeah. And pretty much the whole consensus, I'm kind of glad about this. It was like, if you're in this situation, just run. Like, it's dumb. You don't need to fight 7 people.
Yeah.
But you bring it up. You talk about being a bouncer and then now being involved with UFC fighters and stuff like that.
Mhm.
Were you a bouncer around the time when when the UFC started to become, I guess, like a
Yeah,
household name?
I sure was. And that was not fantastic for bouncers. Because the bars now, and I was a gentleman's club bouncer. We'll put it like that, right?
Nice.
So I'm there with the shirt and tie on and all that stuff, and it's a good money making opportunity to order these fights and get these guys in. Right around 2007, 8, we're in the right after the first Ultimate Fighter was on TV.
Yeah.
About 2 years after that, man, boom! Right, there's this explosion. And everybody thought they could do some jujitsu too back then, right? Like, they knew a move, like it was going to be like really, really easy, and somebody was just going to lay down and put their arm in this position that they saw on TV, right? And I can tell you, it's not like that. I mean, and I always tell my buddies, I say, hey, if you're going to get in a fight, look at a guy's knuckles or look at his ears first before you do anything. Because if they're all damaged, both of those, you probably don't want anything to do with that guy. And that's one of the assessments you make when you're bouncing. Like, is this guy a real threat? Has he possibly been in a fight before? Do I want to fight somebody that looks like they've been fighting a lot? No. So maybe we want to get them out of this place as gently and as happily as possible. And then there's always the guys who are talking, whose all of a sudden arm is back here, and they're sending a telegraph telling you what's happening next.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, I feel as though that's also another good example of kind of like how to de-escalate situations like that. You talk about, like, I used to tell my students, like, it's so much easier to buy somebody a beer than it is to get, like, to pay bail money to get out of jail, just because it's
Yeah.
almost pointless to fight nowadays. Like, not to steal from Joe Rogan, but he's like, you don't even know who knows what nowadays. It's not
Yeah,
that
no,
who knows what. It's more or less like the damage you and I can do to just a normal person is too much. Like, nobody will look favorably upon that.
no, definitely not. I mean, that's one of the things about self-defense. And I think that's one of the great things about jujitsu, because it builds this confidence. You're vulnerable, right?
Yeah.
You also know you can do certain moves that most people have no understanding of. And it allows you to say to somebody, hey, let's not get into this. I'm going to leave or you leave. And let's just shelve this, because you never know what's going to happen in an actual fight, right? Like, there's no way on earth of determining. You don't know what's behind you. If he's got a buddy over there with glass in his hand. We had a guy get in a fight with us the one time, and his buddy was in the back, comes running out with a badge and a gun, pulling it on us, and we had to show him the footage that his buddy just started mixing it up with us. You never know what the situation is going to bring. So if you can avoid those altercations, man, you do it every single time you can.
Absolutely. And so I guess maybe kind of change the subjects a little bit. So
Yeah.
going back to your strength and conditioning that you help others with, without giving away too many trade secrets, like, what's something that you see as a little more beneficial for Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu athletes or grapplers in general to be doing for strength and conditioning, as far as making sure they stay healthy, flexible, but still have that strength on the mats.
You've got to balance all this stuff, right? And you've got a limited amount of time. And when I was bouncing, I was also a pro strongman. I used to do the Atlas stones and flip cars and whatnot. And I've written articles on this for Barbend, the online magazine, that I believe that strongman conditioning and training is probably the ideal exercise for most combat athletes and military, police, those type of people, because what you're going to be doing, especially something like the stones, right? You're going to bend over, pick up something unforgiving, lap it, pick it up. You can put it over your shoulder. Those types of unstable movements that require a large amount of output of force, and they tire you out very quickly. So you're going to do your aerobic work and your conditioning, your road work. You're going to get out and run if you're gearing up for a fight. But when you get in the gym, if you do traditional bodybuilding exercises, they're going to make you a little bit bigger. Maybe they'll make you a little bit stronger. But when you take, say you're a 180-pound guy and you're going to be fighting another 180-pound guy, you put a stone on the ground that weighs similar to that. Pick it up, put it over your shoulder, simulate a suplex. Do that 10 times in a row. You're going to be gassed, right? But you do that again and again and again. And that's that training that has made you stronger, has given you more power, more endurance in a number of positions. It may not make you absolutely big, right? But that's not our goal here, right? We're not trying to look buff. We're not, that's nice if that happens to you. But really what you want to do is be physically fit and ready for these situations. And something like strongman training is very difficult to beat when using the entire body and all the energy systems at once.
This makes sense then, because I know a buddy of mine is very into strongman competition and like lifting and stuff like that. He's kind of started out, so he has talked about the Atlas stones. I do remember growing up watching like the world's strongest man competitions and stuff like that, and just being amazed. I was like, if I screw up with like something like this, like I'm gonna get bent backwards. Like I had to replace a tire on a up armored Humvee, and those are Kevlar tires. And I was a young private. I didn't know any better. And they're like, go on, take it off the back. It's fine. I didn't know how much it weighed. I pulled it off, and it folded me backwards. Everybody had a good laugh, but that was maybe 120 pounds of a tire, maybe, not even.
Yeah.
Like I can imagine 180, 200 something pounds trying to pick that up.
Yeah, I've done a 450-pound stone.
Oh my God.
And at the time, I was walking around weighing about 255, 260 pounds, like a Brock Lesnar style guy, you know, and that's how Brock got through the UFC, right? It really didn't have anything to do with skill. He had about 2.5 minutes worth of conditioning. And if he got a hold of you, he'd take you to the ground and just beat the snot out of you. Like, and I mean, it's hard to escape somebody that's that strong. And that was always something I had going for me. I was able to have sloppy technique or whatnot, because when I would do farmer's walks, like carries, you pick them up and you walk.
Yeah.
330 pounds per hand. Right. So if I grab you and want to get you down, you're going to go down. Right. Unless you've got super technique and you can sprawl and do all these things. So when I train a fighter, I want to make him as physically strong on his limit and endurance strength as possible. Right. We want those things to be through the absolute roof, because technique trumps everything. Right. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
Like I had 200-pound guys when I'm weighing 250 pounds. I can't get out of their guard. I can't move. You know, they're absolute aces. They got their technique down, right? But when you're in a situation and you're evenly matched, two evenly matched individuals, but if one is stronger, I'm giving the advantage to the stronger guy every time. He's just going to find an opportunity that is take advantage of and turn the situation right around.
Yeah, it is amazing to see people who are insanely strong doing jiu-jitsu with a little bit of technique as well. I mean, it's almost terrifying, because I've had people I've rolled with who are, you know, very, very strong, very, very strong. I don't know if about 330-pound farmer carries per hand strong, but they made me feel like a toddler in strength. But there were certain things I could do. I remember armbarring one guy. I got him in position, and I'm trying to, you know, I try to go slow just because, you know, as a victim of the fast armbar in training, I try not to do fast arm bars on people.
Right.
And I just start leaning back, and then all of a sudden I start going right back to where I was because he's curling me back.
Yeah.
Oh, it's
And
terrifying.
I mean, that really is a possibility. And I mean, it does make your technique game a little weak if you're going to rely on that stuff, but it's a tool, right? You've got to understand, like Jocko Willink, right?
Yeah.
The guy, a black belt and a physical specimen that would scare the living crap out of most people just like walking out to tap his hand, you know? So, you know, there's nothing saying that being strong is everything, but man, it doesn't hurt you being strong. Yeah. It's not something that's going to work against you.
Not at all. Not at all. That's something you got to work on every day as well. I mean, which was going to bring me into something I wanted to talk to you about, was because I know it was, what was it, Fitness in a Van, or what was it? That
Fittest Man in a Van, yeah.
Fitness Man in a Van. I love that. Dude, that's fucking dope. Fittest Man in a Van, my bad. And it deals with traveling and stuff like that. Like, so what were some of the things you did to maintain that type of strength and conditioning while you were out and about?
So I just got back from like 4 weeks on the road from Austin, Texas to New York and back down to Florida. And in that time, I've made available mostly common objects that you're going to find at, you know, campsites. I was picking up boulders a lot, right? Like there are rocks everywhere you're going to turn, and a rock can be, you can press it, right? You need to find a smaller one, do a front raise, do some rows. You're going to do some more traditional stuff. But they have made some pretty cool apparatuses, man, now that take up no space for training. Have a ball about this big with some handles on it that you fill with water, and it fills up to about 30 pounds. So it's almost like a massive kettlebell, you know, but you can start swinging it around, do some mace swings, do some off balance type of stuff. And in my buddy's van, he bought a unit. It's a pulley system. And I don't know, they sell these everywhere now. They've gotten really popular, where it's the positive motion. You move up against that pulley as hard as you can, and then it kind of resets and you guide it back down. So you do like a lot of eccentric contractions, boom, and then you let that negative reset. Those types of things don't build a lot of size, but they keep your muscles conditioned. They're going to build power. And the number one thing I say about training is consistency is key. It is the key to everything. I'd rather you do something less beneficial more often, right, than something you hate every once in a while, because that's not going to work. So if you're on the road and you're like, well, what am I going to do? Run and push-ups? I can do those. Okay, do run and push-ups. If you got a buddy and you guys can like just pick each other up. Everybody wants to overcomplicate all this. And there are ideal training times, right? If I have somebody that I'm getting ready for a fight, we're going to plot out 8 to 12 weeks and be like, you know, okay, there's no vacations. There's no unexpected weekends. We don't run home for something. We stay on this plan and we get it all done because it's periodized, right? We're going to go up and down. We're going to vary intensity. We're going to work with the martial arts coach as a strength and conditioning coach. We're going to integrate all this. If you're taking a 2-week vacation, right, the last thing you want to do is not do anything, but you got to do something you like in order to maintain, because you will just nosedive. You know, you take 2-3 weeks off, you turn into rust, especially as you get older. I've turned 49 this month, right? So any more than a week off, and I start to freeze up and the body doesn't want to move right. And for older athletes, you have to stay moving, right? Or it dissipates overnight almost.
Where would you find that motivation to stay that like you say, you know, stuff you enjoy, like you say, you'd rather somebody do something that they might not be the best for them, but they do more of, versus like something they hate and they only do once in a while. Where do you help people try to find that motivation as well, like to kind of keep on that path, as well as, you know, like keeping them focused?
So that's a big thing. Motivation. I don't like to look at things in terms of motivation, right? Because this is a fleeting thing. So we're gonna learn a process. What's that process, right? You know, and it's gonna start with, if I set my alarm at 5:30 every day, get up and put my shoes on, I'm gonna go do that run. You know, there's your process, and then that becomes discipline after a while. Habits and discipline. That's how we want to put things together. Because if you rely on motivation, oh, I want to do this because I want to run this 5K at the end of the month or whatever. Yeah. These are these peaks and valleys, right? That aren't consistent. And that's going to be the enemy of long-term gains momentum, winning your matches or moving through the belt system. So the consistency you build by doing the same things every single day when they're under your control, it's almost like the military, right? Like you guys are going to follow a schedule. You're going to stick to it. You don't have to be motivated. Guess what you're doing today? You're going on a 10-mile run because that's what's planned, for you. So when you make a plan, you hire a coach, you follow the system, things will get done. You may not get great, right? I'll tell people this all the time. You may not really get great at this, but you will be better in 6 months, in a year, in 18 months than when you started. And anytime an adult does something that enhances their discipline, I actually believe it gives them more freedom because you're going to stop making stupid choices and harm yourself, right? Exercise is key. Nutrition is key. And if you don't have the discipline that you've developed to stay exercising, to eat the correct foods, you're not going to enjoy life as much because you're going to be eating the wrong things. Your fitness is going to slip. Your sport's not going to be as enjoyable. You're actually giving up your freedom, when you make poor choices.
Sense. I mean, jiu-jitsu is a big thing. We talk about it being, you have to have a certain diet to make sure, that you can not hate life when you're on the mats. Like I can tell, I'm not the most disciplined when it comes to food and drink, but when I go to train, I ensure that the day before and the day of, I'm not stuffing my face with like ice cream and cookies and stuff like that because I feel like shit when I'm on the mats, and then even worse when I'm off the mats, on recovery wise.
We are really starting to understand only in the last 20 years the role of stomach health in terms of your overall physical fitness. And most of these processed foods are high in sugars, which cause inflammation, and that's really our number one enemy. COVID-19 sought inflammation, right? Injuries produce inflammation. A lot of sugary foods raise your blood sugar, and they produce inflammation through the entire body, your brain, your joints, whatnot. So then you apply a large amount of physical stress on top of it, and you're going to feel absolutely horrible the next day. Things you can get away with when you're 18 or 19 because your body's a little bit more machine-like aren't going to float after 30.
Especially injury recovery, but
sure.
Man, I cannot bounce back from some of the pain, the aches and pains of rolling that I used to. You just get beat up real bad one day. So I was like 22, 23 maybe when I first started doing jiu-jitsu, and now I'm just I cannot keep that same intensity whatsoever with it. And it sucks. But,
hopefully you don't have to. Hopefully you've gotten enough where you don't have to keep the intensity up, right? I mean, that's kind of the key.
Yeah, I was going to say, it is nice where you're just collar chokes show up out of nowhere for me. So it's pretty good. You got the young white belts and blue belts trying to beat up on the older brown belt, and then you just it's not a scramble for everything anymore. You can kind of keep the pace, but then when the young brown belt shows up, it's absolutely time to try not to get beat up so bad. I tap. Don't get me wrong. I tap all the time, but I can't It's definitely different. It's definitely different.
Dude, that's one thing guys don't realize. And this was, I think, born out of the 70s Bruce Lee, Chuck Norris style movies that they're like, oh, the black belt's the guy. Dude, you got a brown belt in jiu-jitsu. You're just a dangerous person, right? Because look, I told you I still have my blue, and I've had it for a number of years. You can stay in blue and actually be a super dangerous person, because you just know so much more. When a white belt walks in and, you roll with them first time and you're careful and everything like that, you realize how much you didn't know when you got started. You can actually see them go through the process of here, it's here, right? They're running through the moves in their head instead of just flowing into everything, and by the time you get to a brown belt, you've been doing this for years. Most guys 6, 7, 8 years to get to brown belt, and that's an accomplishment in itself just to stick with a sport this difficult and demanding for that period of time.
No, it really is. I mean, it's something like you say, you've been doing this for a while yourself. It's weird to kind of look back and see was I like this as a white belt? Was I really what was I doing?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, you were probably it's kind of shocking. Like it just feels so awkward sometimes to pull these moves. You know, the professor's running over the first time you see something. Even a like a sleeve choke or something like that, and you're grabbing it on the outside or the inside, and you don't remember what you're supposed to be doing. You know, and they throw it at you because they're so good, right? And they're just boom, you know, and all of a sudden everybody's all tied up and it's over with. And you're sitting there going, what is it, my left leg on the shoulder? You know, like you're trying to digest all these parts of these moves, and then you're going to try to execute them with somebody who's probably better than you, you know, and you're like, I can get killed here, you know, like that thought's running through your head. So that if you, let me give you some advice. And I've owned one martial arts school. Take it easy on the new guys for like a month if you want them to renew, because they got to learn something at the end of that month. If all they've done is been fodder for everybody else, you're never going to see them again. They're going to buy the gi, they're going to pay the $99 first month thing, and then they're gone. Their wives are going to make them stop. They'll tell you, because, you know, they just need a way out of this thing.
Yeah, my whole thing when new people came in to train with my club, I said, you know, for the first like month, pretty much 2 to 4 weeks, you know, unless they're like a wrestler, I kind of cut them a little bit of slack. I was like, you guys are going to do nothing but just go for position, and that's it. No submissions, no chokes, nothing. You're going to pass guard, you're going to get in good position, and that's it. No submissions. And then I had to eventually upgrade that to, you need 2 stripes on your white belt to start from standing position, because we did teach takedowns, or at least we drilled takedowns every class, because I feel the biggest disadvantage jiu-jitsu has is that it does not teach a lot of takedowns. Let me rephrase that. Some schools do, not all of them. But I don't think there's a lot of emphasis on being able to take somebody down. Like, that's the whole purpose. The whole purpose is to be able to be the dominant fighter on the ground. And it's hard to do that when you can't get that person to the ground. So you got to figure out how to get them to the ground.
It would behoove a lot of schools if they would bring in an actual wrestling coach, somebody with high school or even D3, D1 experience, just to show basic 2-leg takedowns, you know, and work with coach beforehand so he shows you where not to stick your head, right? You know, because in wrestling, you're going to put your head in positions that aren't safe for BJJ, but it's literally simply him moving it to the inside and as opposed to leaving it on the outside, or pulling the feet out a little bit faster, not taking your time. But at my school, we had a dedicated wrestling coach, you know, who was going to work our takedowns and stand-up positions, who, dude, nobody's faster than a wrestler, right? Like a really good wrestler, these guys move in the blink of an eye. So it's a big advantage to your jiu-jitsu if you learn some takedowns, you know, and I always hate to see the match that stands up with a slap and somebody immediately lays down on their back, you know? It's like, dude, so can somebody try something? I don't want to grab your legs and spin them around. I'm like, you know, let's engage.
Yeah, I enjoy seeing dynamic judo throws, amazing wrestling takedowns, and, you know, I'll go for a little bit of, you know, a snap down and get behind the, like, you know, it's an extra 2 points, you know, and then you set the rhythm of the match, you set the pace you want. And then on top of that, if it does come down to a self-defense situation, the last thing I want to do is be tied up with some random dude and fall down and bounce my head off of, like, the concrete or something. Then all my jiu-jitsu means nothing. It's done.
Yeah, you need a good underhook. And there's a lot of balance on your feet, right? It's really very much dancing. You know, wrestling is dancing. So you've got to learn how to move on the balls of your feet, what those positions are, where your center of gravity is, things you don't get from anything else. That is a requirement, you know, to actually being good at these sports. The last jiu-jitsu fight I had was about 3 years ago in a boxing ring at a night promotion, you know, and I was fighting a guy similar weight, but he was only 25 and I'm 45 at the time, you know, and you know, we both came out and took a wrestler stance. I knew this guy's a wrestler. He knows I'm a wrestler. And the first minute was just lockup, you know, like nobody could get a position on each other, you know, and that was actually good because if I didn't have any wrestling, this guy would have just taken me down within seconds, in front of everybody else. And I look like an idiot. And I don't want that. I mean, you want to be able to feel like you're evenly matched with whatever opponent you're up against.
Yeah. And you don't want, like, one-side matches suck. I mean, everybody's been on it, been
Yeah.
involved in one, whether it was like in the gym or a competition, stuff like that. And it feels horrible and it's very demoralizing. So like you say, having that ability to lock up with this other wrestler and make it an actual like good match, means a lot to you, your opponent probably, and definitely the crowd as well, because they don't want to see just 20 seconds of grappling with one guy just steamrolling some dude and choking him. Like,
Well,
want to see the match.
yeah, you want to see the match. You would love to see, like you said, a hip toss, a judo throw. When you get two bigger guys, I mean, we were both about 245 pounds at the time, 6'1", 2, rocking it around. And if somebody could have got positioned, somebody's legs were coming over, right?
Yeah.
So it was going to be spectacular if it happened. But if you know what you're doing too, you can use it to tire out your opponent, which was really pretty much what I was doing. I was just trying to lay on the guy, and get him off balance. But I was on top as much as I could be. And when we got down, it really benefited me because I'm with somebody 20 years younger than me trying to rip my head off. And we stalemated. I lose in overtime, but at least I didn't get choked out, right off the bat because I didn't handle myself on my feet.
Perfect. Well, hey, I think I'd rather lose in a very close match, like you said. But yeah, you see what you want. Hopefully, you get to see those dynamic moves. But in the end, too, since we do preach a lot about like the whole make sure your sport jiu-jitsu is as good as your self-defense jiu-jitsu, and have that ability to take somebody down is absolutely paramount in that, in my opinion. But
Yeah.
So one last topic change, since we're gonna kind of go back to Fittest Man in a Van. Where was your favorite place to drive to and then kind of set up shop for like a day or two?
Man, that is a tough one because I've been a van life guy since I was 9 years old. We had a Volkswagen bus when I was a kid.
Oh yeah, dude, my parents had one too. Those things are amazing.
We use that. As a matter of fact, my parents are down visiting from Buffalo, New York. They're in their conversion van out in my parking lot right now while we're on this podcast. Like I'm a traveler, but I'm a gypsy, man. So I would have to say Northern California or Yosemite. Like I would urge anyone. I've got my first book I'm almost finished with about my trip out there last year traveling. And Yosemite is so large and so vast and so dynamic in what it presents. Like there was some real foresight in Lincoln to set this land apart and say, this is going to be a place, right? You can't mess with it. We're going to let people look at it. No one's going to live here. We're not going to put a railroad through it, anything like that. So when you get there and you start taking it in, it's so massive. I'm standing at the base of El Cap with I've got a professional camera, and my buddy's like, what is that people? And they look like ants, right? But there were people sleeping on El Cap for the night and hanging, and zoom all the way in and get them up there. And you can see what they're doing. And you're in awe because there's a superhuman, right? There's a superhero on the side of this mountain getting up to the top. And I'm standing down here afraid of whatever the hell they're doing. Like, I can't even, could you imagine being 2,000 feet in the air, sleeping on a basically hammock for the night, out in the cold in November in Yosemite at altitude? It's absolutely a breathtaking thing in one of the greatest places in the absolute world, man. Like, our national park system is one of the jewels of the United States. And it's a shame to me to see the state of economic instability that California's in, because I toured the surf towns along the coast on the way in, and they're decimated. A lot of the businesses are closed. I saw a lot of closed gyms, martial arts places, tattoo shops, small restaurants, because they so relied on people being out and exploring this territory along the Pacific Coast Highway that is unlike anything else you're ever going to see. So if you can get out to Northern California, get to Yosemite, man, I would direct anybody to go there like as soon as possible.
Good to hear, because that is on my bucket list of places I want to go visit and like go see, because I love getting out in nature. I love hanging out in it. And I love exploring. So Northern California is one of the few places I've not been to yet. So I'm definitely going
It's
to be
unbelievable,
going to that.
man. It's being a writer. It's hard to write about because it is so beautiful, right? I feel like anything I'm going to say is going to shortchange it, you know. So it's majestic.
I can't wait to see it, man. So before we head out, where can everybody find you? Like websites, Instagram, stuff like that.
The easiest place to get a hold of me is on Instagram. My handle's Pro Strongman. Couldn't be easier. So at Pro Strongman, get a hold of me there. And I work with athletes from all over the country, you know. So if you're somewhere, I remote train people, and I do Skype sessions or programming or nutrition, or I've done a ton of interviews. If people want to know about strength conditioning for combat sports, I really think I have a unique approach that would help your athletes.
Awesome. Well, Mike, I do appreciate you taking some time to talk to me on the show about strength and conditioning and traveling, and it's been a fun time, man. I do appreciate it, and hopefully
Thanks,
we can
Rob.
do it again soon.
Looking forward to it.
Awesome. So, ladies and gentlemen, this has been another episode of the Big Jiu-Jitsu Show. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook if you're already here, and then you can find all of our old shows at bjjshow.com. I'm Rob, and we'll catch you guys next time.